All right, this is a great story. Buckle your seatbelts. This is incredible. The guy was such trash. First, I said in a recent video the Luminosa cigar was from Josh Morrow. I mixed up the viewers and the cigars. The Luminosa, which I smoked on camera, and the Romeo and Julieta, which I have not smoked yet, were from another viewer. Josh Morrow gave me this Davidoff and another Davidoff. I had them all in the same bag with a wet napkin as like a ghetto humidor. I mixed up which cigars were from which person. Got it straightened out now, thanks to both of you for the 4 cigars total. Now I'm going to get into the story. This guy, first of all, I was dealing the Sunday special. This was on Sunday, so today is the day 43 video. Technically it's day 44 for me, but I'm telling you about day 43. Sunday special, huge tournament. Got over 650 entries, even though it wasn't even a very like hectic day. It was kind of a slow day. Still got over 650 entries. First, 2 people I dealt to before the guy who's the main character in the story. I dealt to the guy who thought 2 minutes per street wasn't enough time to think and threw a tantrum during day 1 of the main event. He didn't do anything like that this time. And I dealt to the guy who cited Rule 11D from the TDA rules and got it wrong, and he didn't cite any more rules. But I'm dealing a table. 2 seats are open. We're 10-handed on very busy days. So we're 10-handed. We have 2 seats open. You know, eventually they'll get filled, but we have 2 seats open. The 1 seat is open and the 4 seat is open. And I'm actually going to show you visually with some slides what happened first as soon as this guy got to the table. Because before he even sat in the chair, you could tell that he was a piece of garbage.
All right, here we go. Orleans colors, purple and green. I am the dealer at the bottom. We were 10-handed on a busy Sunday. And this was the table before the guy got there. 10-handed, but I made seat 1 and seat 4 black because seat 1 and seat 4 were open. Players had been there. They got all in. They lost. They left. Seat 1 is open. Seat 4 is open. The floor has the seat cards. I'm pretty sure it was table 48. So the floor has a seat card that says table 48, seat 1, and another seat card that says 48, table 48, seat 4. These seats will get filled eventually, and this is the guy who's filling it. He comes to the table. It's not very complicated what to do when these seats are open. Say, for example, the dealer button is in seat 10 when seats 1 and seat 4 are open, okay? Since there's no person in seat 1, then the small blind is in seat 2, the big blind is in seat 3. Not very complicated. Let me clear this for a second. This guy happens to walk over to the table. He got reassigned to our table to balance the table while a hand was in progress, and the hand in progress had the dealer button in seat 3. Since when I started dealing, there was no person in seat 4. The small blind got the first card. Seat 5 was the small blind and got the first card dealt. Seat 6 was the big blind, and I dealt 8-handed, and that was the end of it. He gets to the table while this hand is in progress and instantly starts complaining. He said something about how he should have been in seat 1. The floor should have given him the seat 1 seat card. He asked which player got knocked out more recently, seat 1 or seat 4. I think at one point he wanted to be dealt into the hand somehow. Yeah, we're not backing up time and undoing this hand and letting him come in. He can't come in anyway, by the way, because he's between the button and the small blind. If he were in seat 1 and got here early enough, he would have been dealt in, but that wasn't the case. And I don't know what he's complaining about, because after this hand in progress is finished, regardless of what seat card he gets, he needs to wait for the hand in progress to finish. When this hand finishes, then the dealer button moves. It's in seat 5. The small blind is seat 6. The big blind is seat 7. He gets to come in behind the button. He's going to get the most hands possible coming in 1 seat behind the button until the big blind hits him. He gets 6 hands until he needs to put money in involuntarily in the big blind. I don't know why he wanted seat 1. I don't know what he was talking about, but he got to the table, and while he was still standing, before he sat, he was complaining about stuff and saying stuff wasn't happening correctly. And there you go. Seat 4 and the arrow are black. Now seat 4 and the arrow are white, because after the hand in progress finishes, where the button was in seat 3, the next hand, button in seat 5, now he's here, now he's dealt in, and he's coming in late position, which is exactly what you want.
So he got exactly what he wanted, and he was still complaining. Gives you some insight into the type of person he was. So he's in a hand, he's in position, it's heads up the whole way. The other guy is betting small and has the betting lead. The other guy's in the 2 seat, he's in the 4 seat. So eventually it gets to the river, and the board is ace, queen 3, jack 3. So many ace X hands are going to chop with each other. Pair of aces, pair of 3s on board, queen kicker. But on the river, the first player gives up the lead. Seat 2 checks. Seat 4 bets 35,000. It was a very big bet at that stage. I think it was more than was in the pot at the time. He bets 35,000. Seat 2 thinks for a while. He's having a tough time with this. He turns his cards face up, which you're not supposed to do, but he turns his cards face up. He keeps thinking, he calls. As soon as he calls, I see his cards. So I say to the 4 seat, you know, I just like kind of motion to him, like, you know, it's on you to show or fold now. He says, that hand is dead, he can't show his cards. I said, I'm not killing his hand, it's on you, show or fold. He says, it's in the TDA, you can't do that. He's not allowed to do that, his hand is dead. You need to kill his hand and I win the whole pot. I say, I don't know if that's a rule, but I'm not killing his hand, it's on you, show or fold. He says, you guys announced that we're following TDA rules. This is in the TDA rules. Like, you should be the one enforcing this. I shouldn't even have to say this. I say, I don't know if it's a TDA rule. For one, I didn't say this part to him, but it's insanity that he expects every dealer in the building to have every TDA rule memorized. I would say most have 0 or 1 rules memorized. For him to expect everyone to have every rule memorized is just like spoiled, unrealistic expectations. So I said, I don't know if that's a violation or not, but even if it is, you accepted it when he turned his cards over and you said nothing. This is way too late to speak up. The time to speak up was when he turned his cards over. And he just like looked mad and shook his head. And I said, why didn't you say anything when he flipped his cards over? And he said, why would I say anything? I'm in the hand, which means nothing. I'll tell you why he didn't say anything. He was hoping the guy would fold, and then he would never say a word about this, and he would keep this little trick of his in his back pocket, and later in the tournament bring it up, because he can only bring it up once. He would bring it up later to try to get a pot that isn't actually his. He wouldn't waste it if the guy was going to fold anyway, but he doesn't know if the guy's going to fold or not until the guy acts on his hand. So that's why he didn't say anything. So I told him it's too late to speak up. He called, I see his cards, you need to show or fold. He says, no, it's in the TDA rules, his hand is dead, you need to call the floor. I don't call the floor over trivial things. The thing is, though, he hasn't shown his cards. So we're just like at a stalemate here. If the only way to get him to show or fold his cards is if someone calls the clock on him at Showdown, which is a rare time to call the clock, but you can, and then the floor would come over and give him a countdown. Well, either way, the floor's gonna come over. So I call the floor over. I try to explain what happens. I get about 2 words out. The guy interrupts me. He stops talking for a second. I start explaining all over from the beginning. I get like 3 words out. He keeps interrupting me. The floor's not really understanding because this guy is just talking with absolute rage. Eventually, the floor says, I'm asking the dealer what happened. Let the dealer tell me what happened. So I said, C2 checked. This is going to go out. Hold on. I say, seat 2 checked, seat 4 bet 35,000, seat 2 thought, seat 2 turned his cards face up, seat 2 kept thinking, and then seat 2 called. And then seat 4 said his hand is dead. And I said, it's not, I need to see your cards or you need to fold them. The floor said, okay, he's not supposed to do that, but his hand is not dead. You need to show or fold your cards so we can end the hand. The guy shows his cards. C2 had ace-6, playing aces, and the 3's on board, the queen kicker on board. Seat 4 had ace-9, the aces, 3's on board, queen kicker on board. The floor says, okay, chop the pot, give each of them half the pot. That's what I did. As I'm chopping the pot, C2 says, why aren't you following the TDA rules? You said at the beginning of the tournament you're gonna follow TDA rules. This is in the rules. He can't show his cards, I win the entire pot. The floor said, he's not supposed to do that. It's not a dead hand. I'm going to give him a 1 orbit penalty because he isn't supposed to do that, but he's getting half this pot, you're getting half the pot. It was very interesting timing because we were 2 minutes away from going on a 45-minute dinner break. So I moved the button to seat 8. The floor tells the guy who's getting the penalty, okay, next orbit, which is after dinner break, next orbit when the button is on seat 8 again, that's when you can come back, but you have a 1 orbit penalty, you're not allowed to do that. The guy says, okay, he got a head start on dinner break. He leaves. And then seat 4 just keeps whining. And he says, it's in the TDA rules. I win half the pot. He can't do that. His cards are dead. The floor says, show me in the TDA rules where it says this. If you can show that to me, I will gladly give you the entire pot. The guy didn't say another word. The floor left. After the floor left, which I didn't let the guy cheat. None of the players agreed with him. The floor didn't let the guy cheat. Nothing that happened proves this guy was right. He wasn't. After the floor leaves, he starts telling Seat-5 how right he was, and the fact that the floor gave the guy a penalty proves that he was right. No, that's not how things work. There are things in tournaments you can do, there are things you can't do. Some things that you can't do get you a warning, some things get you 2 warnings, some things get you a 1 orbit penalty, some things get your hand killed, some things get you disqualified. There are varying degrees of penalties for things you can't do. This got the guy a 1 orbit penalty, but his hand was not killed. The guy just keeps saying, the fact that he got a 1 orbit penalty proves that I'm right. No, being spoiled rotten and really mad and saying the letters TDA a million times doesn't make you right. I don't know what world this guy lives in, where he expects old dealers to have every word of the TDA manual memorized and thinks just because he's mad and tries to cheat that he should get his way. But that's not how things work. It was great because we were on dinner break then. So the dealer that pushed in and I went to the next table, I told him, you know, C2 has a penalty. He can't come back till Button's in seat 8 again. And then the guy asked what led to the penalty. I got to tell the story again. That dealer got a good laugh out of it. I told another employee that dealer got a good laugh out of it. This was even better than the guy who cited Rule 11D and was wrong. This guy couldn't even cite a rule, and then when he was asked, show it to me, and I'll do what the rule says, he just went silent and the floor walked away. Never a dull moment. And remember, rice is a spoon food.